definitely we couldn't leave this topic, and you need to know how Rasayana in the past can become a very, very promising future for you and something that you can apply. And to bring this knowledge to you, we have a person who is definitely dedicated in their own practice and use the Ayurveda in their skills in helping patients out. So definitely Ayurveda is the timeless art of rejuvenation, and the secrets even our ancestors knew for vitality, clarity, and graceful aging. So what was that called? Let's talk about what's it in the new language called. It is called the Histone Code. So to show us how lifestyle, herbs, and even mindset can literally change the way our genes behave, I would like to give a warm welcome to Mr. Mahesh Jayaraman, who will be telling us about this ancient science and of course telling us how we can incorporate it in our current practices. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahesh Jayaraman. I won't be handing over the mic if I don't hear the claps. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amarjit. It's never a good idea to be the speaker between an audience and the tea break. We've all had a long day and it's been pretty intense. You've heard everything from stuff that's already working in the clinic, which all of you are aware of, lots of supplements, zinc, magnesium, all the things all of us use. It's our daily bread and butter. You've also heard about some wonderful advances. Imagine we're living in that time when stem cells are a reality. There is we heard from Nirupama ji, and it's so fantastic that there is an actual stall outside where we've got, the possibility of medical practitioners to be able to pick up stem cells and use them with their patients. So that's the wonderful future that awaits us. I'm sort of taking you back in time. So let me make sure I have the right presentation. Well, I kind of hope I do. Yeah, so let me just put that into full screen. Yeah, so I was trying to get it into presenter mode, but if I can't, I'll just hit the slideshow. It would also be nice for me to not do that. So I'll do a Control Z. Where's the slideshow on this one, please? Ah, here it is. Okay, great. All right, okay, so let's get started. Just for me to understand, get a flavor of the room, how many MBBS doctors, allopaths? Show of hands? Super, all right. How many alternate medicine doctors, please? Homeopaths, Ayurveds? Oh, that's a nice number. That's really wonderful. So some of this may echo with you, some of it may raise questions, so fantastic. How many health coaches, nutritionists? Functional medicine, there you go, that's the room, right? Okay, all right. So we're going to, I'm going to, while I'll speak off the PPT, it can get a little heavy in parts, so I'll try and make sure that everything that I say is communicated to everybody. I'll try and leave time for maybe a couple of questions after that, if I can finish in time. I was told the earlier speaker finished 5-7 minutes early, so maybe we can use that, but let's get started. All right. So when Dr. Ashwini asked me to speak on this topic, it was because one of our seniors and teachers, an allopathic MD by the name of Dr. Nataraj Dravid, brought our attention to the fact that while methylation is spoken of in a very big way in functional medicine, we all hear of MTHFR defects. We heard Dr. Musa speak about methylation a little earlier. The sort of brother or the counterpart of methylation, which is acetylation, is not discussed that much in any functional medicine syllabus, right? So we all hear B12 methylation, and methylation's primary task, let's understand it as being, when it comes to aging and DNA, to make sure that certain genes which can produce trouble or disease are turned off. So methylation, think of it as an off switch. This is a gross oversimplification. So anybody who's very well versed in genes, my apologies already, but I want all of us to kind of be together when we understand this. So methylation, if that is the off switch, Dr. Nataraj drew our attention to the fact that acetylation is the on switch. So to make sure the right genes are turned on and that transcription of DNA to RNA happens in the right way, that is acetylation, right? So that's what we are focusing on, and histones play a crucial role in this. So I've tried to use Ayurvedic Rasayana and how it links back to the histone code. Okay, is there an arrow? There we go. All right, okay. So, we're all aware, we all know about the term genetics, we know about the term epigenetics. Longevity depends upon epigenetics, which is what is the transcription of the genes that we have gotten from our parents, which is why all the health coaches, the nutritionists in this room matter. It's because the lives we live, the food we eat, the stress we take, the sleep we get or don't get, that's what finally influences epigenetics. What part of the software gets actually decoded and what's going to happen inside the cells. That's the epigenetics. So the human genome is not static. It is human genome is static, but the expression is dynamic. Aging is not caused by DNA mutations, but by loss of gene regulation. I'll explain this further in the next slide. Think of epigenetics as the software that runs your DNA, right? So you've got the DNA, think of it like a library or your hard disk, and epigenetics is what is going to decide what gets pulled out of that and expressed, right? So you've got, let's say, black hair from your father who has nice thick black hair. You've got blue eyes that maybe comes from your mother. So those are parts of genes that have gotten expressed. You could have instead, when you were going through when you're a baby in utero, you could have gone with black eyes, which came from your dad, and you could have gone with thinner hair that comes from your mother. So there is a way that it happens in utero. Once we are outside, it's our lifestyle and the way we live that actually decides what's going to get expressed. So when this software breaks down, cells can lose their identity. And that's basically what I'm proposing is aging. And of course, all of these are referenced papers. So at the end, I think when the slides are finally shared, you can look at the studies that we're using for references. And now we're basically saying that software breaking down is primarily what leads to aging. And Rasayana may help to restore this particular regulatory system. Rasayana is the branch of Ayurveda that deals with rejuvenation, with longevity, and making sure that the signs of aging are delayed as long as possible. Okay, this one gets a little technical. Like I said, it's a mixed room, so let's just look at the basic tags, right? So what's happening is DNA is wrapped around the proteins which are called histones. These are what form nucleosomes, right? So these are tightly wound around it. And histone tails are what stick out, and therefore they can receive these tags. So imagine the acetylation or the acetyl tag as the on switch. Imagine the methyl as the off switch. So if you're properly methylating, all the wrong genes remain tightly wound. They're not unwound to be expressed. And acetylation is what makes sure that the right guys get unwound. And that's basically what's happening. The phosphor, of course, is an alert signal that happens whenever there is damage. It hopefully doesn't stay along for too long. Aging, according to the latest theories, is the loss of these histone tags. So there is an on tag, there is an off tag, there is an emergency tag. What if these tags begin to get worn out with time? You go through life, you have a viral, let's say we have COVID, and COVID begins to, in the way that the inflammatory cascade takes place, COVID pulls up a lot of the phospho tags. There's a lot of repair work that is needed. So those get unspooled. But in the process of living a whole life with multiple COVID-like situations, you might end up with tags that get worn out. And you can see on the left side, a youthful cell has tightly organized spooling of the DNA, and it's got the acetyl, methyl, and phospho groups. The tags are clearly readable, and therefore you get proper expression of the genes that you have. But as you go through life and you begin to age, there are these tags that begin to fade. So the body is unable to read what parts should I turn on, what parts should I turn off. So it's not a problem with the DNA itself, it's with the tagging system that tells the body what parts should I actually manifest in this person's life. Should I recreate a healthy cell? Should I be creating more inflammation in this person? Those are the tags that begin to get mixed up. And this is a term that's now gaining popularity in longevity circles. It's called epigenetic drift. So what's happening is the tags are beginning to get misplaced. Some of those that need to be tightly wound are mistaken for the ones that you need to open up and spool it out and bring it into the person's life. Some of those that need to be on, which tell your cells what to do, tells a liver cell what it's meant to do, tells a heart cell what it's meant to do, those begin to stay off. So you've got right guys being turned off, you've got wrong guys being turned on, and you get an increased inflammatory gene expression. So there are decreased repair genes, and instead you've got inflammation genes on for much longer than they were meant to be. All right, so in this context, what does Ayurvedic Rasayana do? Well, Ayurveda's blueprint for biological rejuvenation. So there are some Sanskrit terms, I'll explain them in the next one. This is classical reference from the Charaka Samhita. And what is Rasayana in essence? That which nourishes the essence of the body, or the rasa. So in Ayurveda, we have the Sapta Dhatus. We say Rasa, Rakta, Mamsa, Medha, Asti, Asti Majja, Shukra. So that is the chyle, the food that we eat. The first part is Rasa. From there it becomes Rakta, or blood. From Rakta it becomes Medha, or fat. From Medha it becomes Mamsa, or flesh. From there it becomes bone, or Asti. From bone to Asti Majja, or bone marrow. And the final acme of the food that you eat is the biological tissue that you create. So my bread and butter is helping couples who failed IUI and IVF to conceive. So when we need to improve the reproductive tissue at the end, which is the sperm and the egg, we look at this entire process. We of course start from the diet, but we make sure all the transformations of the dhatus are taking place well. And rasa is the primary tissue that we rejuvenate in order to bring back egg quality. So when there's failed IVF, poor egg collection, etc., rasa is what we would be working on as the primary dhatu. From rasa, we take it all the way up to shukra and shronita, which is respectively the sperm and the egg. Right? So rasayana is that which nourishes this essence. It focuses on rejuvenating tissue quality, metabolism. The third one is the most important, cellular intelligence. It brings back memory to the body as to what those histone tags are. What is the correct on switch? What is the correct off switch? That is what Rasayana we are proposing is able to bring back. Okay? But most important, Rasayana isn't a supplement, right? So unlike a lot of the other supplement things that I use as well, Rasayana is a system. It is a way of life. You begin by cleansing the body. We've heard, Dr. Garg and I discussed this many times. Stem cell therapy is quite expensive. We are lucky to have it available, but it's very expensive. So before we put in stem cells, what if we did the cleansing properly, right? Then the stem cells have a possibility of taking root and doing their job well. So similarly, in Rasayana, it is an entire system. So you start with cyclical personalized renewal. So we do it according to the dinacharya. What is the day? How does it go? How do you wake up? What do you do first thing in the morning? You heard circadian rhythm being discussed. When do you eat the most? How do you stop eating at sunset and so on? That is the dinacharya. Then there is the ritucharya. We're going through rainy season. It is the time when the Agni is the most mandya. We have the weakest Agni. So this is not the time to eat rich foods. Occasional chai pakode, is waiting for you, I'm sure, after this. But other than that, in general, your Agni is weak. So you want to fast during this time. This is why in reality the Jains have a Chaumasa. This is the 4 months or Chaturmas where they are able to fast. It's not because they just don't want to kill small organisms and religion forbids it. That is one of the various things. It's not the only reason. A key biological reason to understand is Agni is weak. So when we live according to the day cycle, which is determined by the sun and the moon, and we live according to the Ritucharya, which is according to the seasons that we are in, eat local, and you are following now an automatic Rasayana. When you do all of this, that's when Rasayana truly shines. Here are some of the modern concepts and their equivalent in Ayurveda. So Dhatu Kshaya, Dhatu basically is the 7 tissues we spoke about. Shaya means destruction. So tissue degeneration and stem cell fatigue. This is the closest that Ayurveda brings to Dhatu Kshaya. Bala is primarily immune resilience that is being lost. This has various implications to mitochondrial health. So when you have poor mitochondrial signaling, ETC transport not working well, the electron transport chain not working as well, Dr. Ruhi touched upon it. When you get morning sunlight, your electron transport chain begins to sing. So the key enzymes that are there, the cytochromes which are there are actually chromophores. If you go back to your biochemistry books and you look at what happens within the electron transport chain, you will realize several of them are light stimulated. So if you get that morning 10 minutes of light, if you get that evening 10 minutes of light, you're literally improving mitochondrial function because that stimulates it. And Bala is often when that mitochondria is not working well. Ojas depletion is the end result, redox failure of in the mitochondria. Too much reactive oxygen species being formed during the electron transport chain, creation of energy, leads to a redox buildup, and that's your ojas depletion. And finally, smriti kshaya, the loss of memory, where those tags are no longer recognized. What is self, what is non-self? Autoimmunity, the mistaking of one's own cells for a foreign body and the attacking. What happens in Hashimoto's thyroid, multiple sclerosis, any of the autoimmune disorders, Ayurveda puts that under Smriti Kshaya. That's the umbrella term. Okay, now for something that's like a clinical experiment. So I know, shout out to Johan. Johan does serious work in the field of trying to bring our attention to evidence-based medicine. Again, looking at studies, understanding data. So this I would very clearly classify as anecdotal, clinical level stuff, right? So this is what we are doing. We are trying it in the clinic because we believe the mechanism of action is solid. We are generating evidence. This is work from Dr. Nataraj Dravid. And Dr. Dravid found that when he was trying to use a particular Ayurvedic medicine, Ayurved's in the room? May I? Oh, super. So Ballataka Asava is, in the classical texts as something that can help with brain rejuvenation. So when there is cognitive age-related decline, Ballataka Asava is a medicine. It is a liquid Asava medicine, natural self-generated alcohol-based medicine. When we were using it without giving the sodium valproate, the results weren't as good. This is Dr. Nataraj Dravid's genius that I'm bringing to this room as a proposed idea. Sodium valproate is known as an anti-epileptic. So all the allopathic docs in this room know sodium valproate as an anti-epileptic. But sodium valproate has several other mechanisms of action. So you can go and there's a wonderful paper called Novel Uses of Sodium Valproate. You can just Google it and you'll find it. And sodium valproate, among other things, it prevents histone deacetylation. It's just a complex way of saying it activates histones, right? So histones are the on switches. So it helps to helps for the tags of the on switches to not be erased. That's what sodium valproate can do. Dosing for epilepsy is usually much higher. The dose used by Dr. Dravid is 500 mg BD. So 500 mg twice a day only for 7 days, and uses it as a priming of the histone. So the body suddenly realizes that these are the correct DNA that I have to unspool. In a locked DNA, you cannot make epigenetic changes. Things that are locked are not going to, you can't, it's like a book that's sealed. You can't open it and change a page. That's not going to happen. You have to open it first. That's basically what he's using sodium valproate for. And we know that long-term uses, there is a problem. Therefore, this is a short-term 7-day protocol. And, this is how he does it. So sodium valproate can increase brain-derived neurotropic factor. There is evidence for this, and it helps with neurogenesis of forming of fresh neurons and connections. Okay, so this is Dr. Nataraj Dravid sodium valproate reset, used temporarily to open up the chromatin or DNA structure, so that then when you follow it up with Ballataka, which is a Rasayana, which helps with cognitive reprogramming, you actually are hitting the hard disk, right? A hard disk that's sealed cannot be rewritten. You've opened up the hard disk and now you're able to do this kind of writing. So this is the question that I'm raising. All those who use Rasayana in their practice already, even functional medicine nutritionists as well as doctors may be using some of these herbs without knowing that it's called Rasayana, right? So things like Brahmi, Gotukola, we all know it by that popular name. So we're all using it, but we don't know this is what it's called. So the question is, can we use Rasayana instead of valporate? And what might be the pros and the cons in this? And here, obviously, valporate acts really fast. That's the important thing. The word actions got cut in the other one. But this one's 24 to 48 hours. That can take days to weeks. Tissue specificity is there in Rasayana. Ayurveda knew about tissue specificity. So you can target specific tissues with Rasayana. Gene targeting, again, it can selectively activate certain genes. This is again part of work that's ongoing in Rasayana at the moment. And it is much lower risk. So maybe, all of us are doing some amount of Rasayana without even knowing that that's what we're doing. So how many people familiar with all four? Okay. How many familiar with three at least, using in your practice? Okay, super. So I think even four we had several hands up. So Brahmi, Gotukola, Bacopa moneri, as we know it, it is known to improve histone acetylation specifically in the hippocampus, improves BDNF, learning, memory, etc. This is what we know from in vitro studies, right? We only know this from the petri dish. This is mechanism of action and what we know. However, Brahmi has been used empirically, used in clinics for long. We know that there are, with at least 3 to 6 months of use at the right dose, you can get good improvements in functional memory tests. So objective tests will show that there is a difference that happens. Ashwagandha, we're all familiar with. I mean, who doesn't know Ashwagandha? It's the poster child of, I think, herbs in functional medicine. So Ashwagandha too, it activates the same sirtuin-1 pathways that Dr. Ruhi was speaking about, and it has the ability to reduce the stress-induced histone changes, right? So when your histones have gotten locked, when the histones acetylations got locked up because there was stress and there was an error that happened, Ashwagandha can help us to remove it. Haritaki, Guduchi, again, without getting into too many details, these are some of the main herbs that are used in Rasayana. So what does it translate to in Western terms? When you inhibit HDAC, HDAC is histone deacetylation. So inhibiting histone deacetylation is the same as promoting histone acetylation, right? It's just a complex way of saying the same thing, but that's what this particular thing does. It improves BDNF and you get better memory and you get mitochondrial protection. So Brahmi and Ashwagandha are the two that I've put on top of this, but this is the overlap between what longevity is trying to do in Ayurveda, in Western medicine, and what we are seeing in Ayurveda. This, to my mind, is the most important for anybody who's watching this talk. Do not do any Rasayana until you have done the detox, right? So this is the same as saying, don't try to improve methylation by giving methyl cofactors till you've done liver phase 1, phase 2, right? So how many people familiar with liver phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 detox? Okay, super. So we work backwards, right? So we make sure the gut is cleaning. So phase 3 detox works well. Then we make sure that the methylation is working well. Then we work backwards towards actually improving the cytochrome P450 enzymes. So similarly, if you're going to introduce Rasayana, which is like a fantastic rejuvenator, first make sure that you have cleansed the person, moving bowels at least once a day, no known liver irregularities, no elevated liver enzymes, etc. That's when you'll get bang for the buck. Then you introduce the Rasayana, which is the Chavanprash, Brahmi, these sorts of specific ones, Ashwagandha too. And phase 3 is maintenance. This is super important. Rotation according to the seasons. So getting, how many people do a Panchakarma once a year? Okay, not bad at all. So, so we know the 5 karmas of Ayurveda and the way that it removes ama or leftover metabolic residue from the body. If you do that regularly, then you will get the maximum benefits. Seasonal rotation, of course, making sure you're eating by season, you're eating in accordance with the season. Nasya, which is nasal drops, which again we can use to deliver stuff directly to the mucosal absorption, avoiding the first pass of the liver. Sorry, I went there for the liver. So that's basically how Ayurveda would look at a Rasayana protocol in practice. And we do have ghee-based nootropics, right? So Brahmi, Ashwagandha, you can get in Nasya form. You can get it as a nasal oil that you can deliver directly to the mucosal surfaces of the nose. It will, parts of it at least, cross the blood-brain barrier. Okay, so clock matters. Some of the doctors earlier spoke about chrono rotation. Rasayana herbs work better when you are taking it at the right time. So the daytime, nighttime matters. If you're touching an Ayurvedic herb, know that it comes with rules, right? It's not Ashwagandha, BD, and we are done with it. That's not how it goes. If you want to truly unlock the power, there is a anupan or a transport mechanism. There is bioavailability defined in Ayurveda, that what will you give what with. Ashwagandha in milk will have different effects. Ashwagandha in water will have different effects, because that is how it's delivered and absorbed in the system, right? So that matters. Synchronizing with, again, NAD plus, now new poster child, NMN, that whole thing. I think niacin for all the money that I have. I wouldn't go with the NMNs, etc. But once you can avoid the flush, if you're good with that, niacin, much more solid evidence, right? It's right there in the middle of the room, cheap and best types. But again, can you sync it, right? So NAD plus, if you are taking as a supplement, body naturally seems to peak NAD in the morning hours. So you may want to do chrono timing when it comes to Rasayana. Seasons, time of day matters. Again, all of this can improve bioavailability, reduce the payload of the medicine, reduce expenditure for your patient. You will get much better results with this.
10 minutes to go.
Thank you. Just a couple of slides. Okay, so Rasayana and biological markers. Out of these, we can measure some of these as regular. So HSCRP you can certainly measure. HRV, everybody, how many people track their heart rate variability? Super. So whether it's with rings or with wrist devices, we can now track heart rate variability. It's tracking so much better in terms of a non-invasive marker. So we're all seeing these videos, right, of people suddenly collapsing. This whole Shefali Jariwala story. How many people believe the IV glutathione drip did it? Show of hands, anybody here? Glutathione is the villain. So, I think we're speaking to a room of converts. We'll have to step outside. There you go. There's Yohal. I like that, he's always the what do they call it? The lone voice in the room that will dare to speak out against. We'll discuss that offline. But honestly, there is a lot that we can do to track heart rate variability, right? So the simple loss of heart rate variability will begin to happen about a month before you're going to have a fatal heart attack. There is early studies on this. So if you wear this little ring, it speaks to your smartphone. It tracks your heart rate variability, which is how much your heart gets to rest between 2 beats. Between the systole and the diastole, what is the sort of rest that you're getting? That's your heart rate variability. So I've had marathon runners who claim their resting heart rate is 40. They're so efficient and it never goes up. To me, that is a flag. That is a red flag. If you have a resting heart rate of 40, but your heart rate variability is 20 on a scale of, let's say it's a second standard deviation. So let's say it can go all the way up to 100. If you've got a heart rate variability that's really low, then your resting heart rate being at 40 doesn't matter. You can still get the heart attack from just loss of vagal tone, right? So you've lost the ability for the heart to rest, and it can get into overdrive. Buildup of lactic acid is primarily what the theory is over there. But when it comes to Rasayana, you can see clear improvements in heart rate variability. If you track that at baseline, you will see HSCRP, interleukin 6 come down. The remaining tests are only possible within research test settings. So BDNF, CERT1, FOXO, etc. You're not going to get those, but all of these changes have been noted in the research laboratory with Rasayana. Why does it matter? Well, all of these benefits, you heard various ways in which we can reverse epigenetic changes, improve new creation of mitochondria, protect neural plasticity, modulate stem cell behavior, etc. Very important, again, not just for Johan, but for everybody. Whenever you hear any presentation like this, your question should be, where's the evidence, right? So there is very limited human trials that directly link Rasayana to histone acetylation. We have used Rasayana for donkey's years. We know it works. We know people who take the Chyawanprash do better. All those studies are there. What we don't know is that it does it through histone acetylation. This is where there is emerging evidence with omics studies, as they're calling it. So Ayurvedic categories, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. How many times have Ayurvedic doctors here been asked to explain what does it mean in modern medicine terms, right? So all the functional medicine doctors, they'll all get asked, what is this Vata, what is this Pitta? And the answer is basically there is key work that is happening. This is the seminal work of Dr. Ravi Shankar Polishetty and his team, well-funded people who are working to try and understand and map Ayurvedic concepts to certain transcriptomics and epigenomics. Okay, what do these fancy terms mean? We take a set of markers, whether it's in the blood or saliva or whatever tissue we decide. We say that these are the key things that will change when Vata or Pitta or Kapha changes. So you start drawing a picture. This is using machine intelligence, large data, and you map it to saying, okay, maybe these 60 things together we can put and call it Vata. So you get Vata derangement at baseline, you give the person a Rasayana, and you reread what their things look like after the intervention. This is a way in which we can now bring back Ayurveda in modern terms. This work is happening as we speak. I think Dr.
5 minutes to go.
Ravi Shankar is almost there. So Rasayana before, Rasayana after, and whether histone acetylation is one of those markers that changes. That is what will truly tell us whether this is the mechanism by which Rasayana is actually achieving any anti-aging, right? That's basically what it is. Clinical integration, we should combine Rasayana with all the things that are available to us. And of course, like Dr. Ashwini uses extensive stem cell therapy with his autistic children. So maybe we can actually do Rasayana either before or after and see how it impacts the stem cells, which are really expensive, which he uses for this, right? Future direction, we're going to have molecular epigeneticists, Ayurvedic pharmacologists, AI and systems biology team, and that's what will help us decode what is truly happening with Rasayana and how much of a role is it playing in histone acetylation, okay? So that's my concluding thought. If histone code is our body's operating system, Rasayana may well be its original update tool, okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much,
much.
Mr. Mahesh. Indeed, a very, very informative presentation there. No doubt about it.